All right. So, um, like Carrie just said, I have been here at Journyx for quite some time, and one of the first ways that I'm introduced in some instances to some of y'all is you call in or you send an email to support. And for 18 years, I have been happily helping out our customers, and hopefully what I have to share with you today will continue on that. And so let's go ahead and get started. If my slide will advance, there we go. So basically what I'm going to cover today is some very basics in administration of Journyx. We're going to be looking at how to add users, how to add projects, how to create an approval plan, how to do approvals, and we'll also look at entering time and expenses in the Journyx mobile app. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is see if I can, oh, there we go. Can you see the login screen there, Carrie?
I can, thank you.
Very good. All right, so the first thing I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be logging into my Journyx 12.1 demo site here. In this example, I am doing some configuration for a company called Kiln Rescue. They do kiln repair and restoration. This company is growing and they need to add a new field tech. Our new field tech's name is Robert, not Bob. Funny story about Robert, when I first met him, that's how he introduced himself. He said, "Hi, my name is Robert, not Bob." So we have started calling him Not Bob or Mr. Not Bob. And so Robert will be our guinea pig here. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to set up an approval plan for him so he can enter his time. We're going to need to create a project so that he can log his time to that project and his expenses as well. And we'll also need to go ahead and create him as a user in the system. So I'm going to go ahead and get logged into my demo site here. First thing I'm going to do is we're going to go and we're going to create an approval plan. So we would do that in Manage, Approvals, Approval Plans, and come right over here to the Manage Approval Plans. So right here, you'll see the default approval plans that I've already got set up. And we come down here to the bottom right-hand corner and create an approval plan. So this is for our field techs. So I'm going to go ahead and name the approval plan Field Tech. And I'm going to set myself as the approver. And I'm going to save that. I'm going to go ahead and set the big boss as the second level approver. We can have backup approvers at each of these different levels if that's necessary for your business needs. But at this point, the big boss always gets things done right the first time. So I think we're safe to move on with just leaving the big boss as the second level approver there. Also, one of the other things that I had wanted to show you guys is each of these approval plans has the ability to enable or disable a set of notifications. So in this, we have the ability to enable a notification of rejection. So if Robert was to submit his sheet and it got rejected, he would get an email back saying, "Hey, Robert, you need to go ahead and make the corrections and resubmit it." And a lot of these different notifications are like that. You have a new notification of approval, notification of submit, notification of resubmit, and so forth. There are multiple different options to choose from here. Some of them are event-driven, meaning that when somebody submits a sheet, it will fire off the notifications. Some of them are time-driven, like if, let's see, which one here? If we're going to enable a notification of a user when a sheet is late being submitted. So what that's going to do is we can set the number of days after the end of the period to send this message. So if Robert was to submit his, or not submit his sheet, and we set this to 2 days after the end of the period, 2 days after the end of the period, he would get an email saying, hey, your sheet's late, you need to go ahead and submit that. So the notifications are very useful in a lot of different ways. So you'll definitely want to take a look at those and use them as best fits your company's needs. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and create his project. So I'm going to go to Manage Projects. You can see the list of existing projects here on this project management screen. Bottom right-hand corner again, we have the Create button. So the project that Robert's going to be working on is kiln repair. So he's our main field repairman. I'll go ahead and create that. And when you're creating your projects, you can give it more, helpful descriptions if you need to. So what we need to do here, the main things that I'm going to be focusing on for this example, we need to make sure to give it a name that is understandable to the people that are going to be utilizing it, that are logging their time. I also need to make sure that I'm going to put it in the correct group. So prior to this, I had created a group called Field Techs, and that is where all of the projects and other objects that Robert and any other field techs that they get would be logging their time to. So all of those objects are going to be in this group called Field Tech. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with different custom fields here in Journyx. You can look at budgets and start dates and end dates. You can have it connected to your Microsoft project or to Microsoft Dynamics GP or any number of other things that would feed projects into Journyx that your individuals would be logging their time to. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it pretty basic and save that project. So now I have created the kiln repair project in the Field Tech group. I've also made sure that it's available for time entry and for expense entry. I also left it available for custom entry. I'm not going to really be looking at that today, but the main things that we're going to be looking at is time and expense. All right, for my next step here, we're going to go ahead and create the user. So to be able to see that, we would come over to User Accounts, Manage Users. This is your list of existing users in the system. So we're going to come to the bottom right-hand corner again and click on Create User. So here is where we're going to create the user's username. I'm going to create that as Robert N, and we're going to give his full name as Robert, not Bob. And just in general, when you're manually creating a user inside of Journyx, if you were just to set the username and any of the other fields and click Save, the initial password for that user is going to be the same as that user's username. So in this instance, if I was to go and click Save right now, the initial login for Robert will be Robert N as the username and Robert N as the password. He would then, upon first login, be prompted to change that password. What I'm going to do right now, though, is I'm going to go ahead and set a password for Robert because I'm going to be logging in as him in the mobile app in just a few moments. And currently, the mobile app doesn't allow first-time users to be able to change their password. So if you have users you're creating in the system that are going to be using mobile, you may want to go ahead and manually set their password for them or have them log in to the web interface and set their password first before going into mobile. So I'm just going to go ahead and set that password. I'm also going to put Robert in the field tech group like I was talking about earlier. Here we can select the different entry screens that the user would be using, as well as roles. Right now, I'm just going to be using the default user role for Robert. There are a lot of different default roles available. There's also the ability to create your own custom roles. So if there's a default role that has either more or less abilities than you want, then you can utilize our custom role functions to be able to create a role that allows your users to be able to do exactly what you want them to do. Same thing with the entry screens. There are default entry screens that are available, but if you want to tweak them and make them more exactly like what you want them to be, you can create a custom entry screen, and that would also be available to assign to your users. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to select our Field Tech approval plan for the for Robert, since I put him in the Field Tech. We can also have these custom fields here that allow us to enter things such as email address for the email notifications, employee start date. I'm going to go ahead and set Robert's start date to this past Sunday. All right, so like I said, there are a lot of different options here. And on any screen that you're on, if you want to know more about the different options that are available, you can come up here to the little question mark and get help for the screen. This is new in 12. We have really updated the help information in 12 to make it more logical to be able to go through and get to different areas quickly when you're wanting to look at different information for your specific users or for whatever area that you're in. All right, so we have the basics here for Mr. Not Bob. So I'm going to go ahead and save that now. All right. I'm going to need to go do an expense approval plan. I had forgotten about that. So I'm going to go over and show you how to do an expense approval plan too. All right, so the same kind of deal here. I'm going to go ahead and set it as Field Tech. The approval plans for time and expenses are very, very similar. In this instance, I'm just going to go ahead and set myself as the approver there. The big boss said he wasn't interested in seeing people's expenses, which I thought was odd, but you know, what are you going to do with bosses, right? So same thing here. We have different email notifications for this expense approval plan. Go ahead and save that and assign it to Robert. I can search for him in here, select his name, and select the Field Tech and assign that approval plan to him. So now I have a Field Tech time approval plan and I have a Field Tech expense approval plan. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my phone, assuming that everything still works and it allows me to do that. And I'll kind of show you around briefly inside the mobile app, and then I'm going to log in as Robert and enter some expenses and some time inside the mobile app and submit them. And then we'll come back into the web app and we'll do the approvals. All right, so let me see if I can show my mobile. There we go. Can you see my mobile screen, Carrie?
I can, yes.
Excellent. So up here, you'll see the Journyx logo, which is our mobile app logo. And there's a little bit of a lag here, so bear with me. So I'm going to be logging into the demo site. So next thing I'm going to do here is enter Robert in, and I'm going to enter the password I set up for him and log in. Now, on this, you can have manual login, and if you're using Azure or one of the other authentication methods to access your Journyx site, those will be respected also in the mobile app. I'm going to go ahead and log in here as Robert. And the first thing that you'll see is a screen where you can select what you want your landing screen to be on. So I'm going to just go ahead and leave that set to the dashboard. And here we are on the dashboard. So what we see here is the total number of hours that Robert has entered in this current period and the status of his current timesheet. So he has entered 0 hours so far, and his sheet is currently open. So we have the ability to come in here and see my activity. So if he had already entered time, he would be able to come into this My Activity area and see the different activities that he's entered and be able to look at different days. Now, on an iPhone like I'm on here, the way to go between time periods is to swipe right and left. I believe on Android, you swipe up and down. So there's slight differences between the different mobile platforms. But that's sort of an idea of how to navigate around in this area. So you can do expenses as well as custom. And there's an area here for notifications. If there are sheets that are due, it will notify you in this area. And there's also a little profile area. So you can see here that we're logged in as Robert Not Bob. There's also a log out button down at the bottom. So for right now, we want to go ahead and enter some time for Robert. So this is the time entry screen. You'll see by default, it is selected the 19th, which is today. And I'm going to go ahead and select kiln repair. And he is going to be, let's see, enter some new elements, it's regular, and that's going to be some billable work. So what you saw there was the ability to select specific projects, activities, pay types, and bill types. And this job for installing new elements, it took him 3 hours. So we can enter 3 hours there and can enter some comment as well. So, barring my bad spelling, we have a time entry here, and we can click Save to enter that. And at the bottom, you got a little notification there saying that 3 hours was successfully added. We can come back over here to my activities and see that I have entered 3 hours. Also, there was some expenses involved with this. So we're going to go and we're going to enter some expenses for this project. So I selected the kiln repair project again. I selected the expense code of mileage and source of company, and I selected the wrong currency. Look at that, US dollars. We're not in Australia right now. Sorry about that, Robert. So he drove, let's see, I believe it was 25 miles. And we can save that entry. And there we are. We have entered time and expense information. And normally your people would have more time than this in a sheet before they submit it, obviously. But I'm going to go ahead and just to show you the submit process on both of these, submit time. So the time was submitted, and I'm going to go to expenses. I'm going to submit the expense sheet, and we've confirmed that expense has been submitted. All right, so both of those sheets have been entered and submitted by Mr. Not Bob here on mobile. So what we're going to do now is we will switch back over to my PC. I'm going to log out as my admin. I'm going to log in as my manager account here. And we see that Robert's time and expense sheets are waiting for my approval here. So we have a couple different options. We can just check this checkbox and click approve, or we can go ahead and click on the sheet itself to take a look at it, which I highly recommend that you look at your user sheets when submitting or when approving. You can see all the detail that has been entered here. You can see that it was submitted on the project called Kiln Repair, that he installed new elements, that it was regular time, and it was billable. So at this point, we can choose to approve or reject. We can also view the full sheet if we choose to in a standard grid type screen. I'm going to go ahead and approve that. And if there were other things to approve for other users, they would pop up here. In this instance, since there's the only other thing I have left to approve is the expense screen, that has popped up now as well. So we can see that it was kiln repair, that there was mileage involved, it was done to company, and the currency was US dollar. So I'm going to go ahead and approve that. And now all of the approvals have been done. As an added bonus, just really quickly here, I wanted to be able to show you some basics of reporting in Journyx. Carrie, do I have enough time for that?
Yes, you do. You've got about 25 minutes left.
Oh my, okay.
But that's okay. We'll have plenty of time for questions.
Very good, very good. All right, so if we wanted to do some reports, actually I'm gonna log out and log back in as my main admin to be able to do the reports, since the admin has access to more data than my user did. So let's go over here to analyze. And in the analyze area, if depending upon the role that you have, you would have access to either run reports, schedule reports, and so forth. But in this instance, we also have access to dashboards, which are really, really nice. You'll be able to see pending approvals, and you can see different reports that you have set up. And one of the great things that we've added into reports recently is the ability to have charts and graphs, which really helps you visualize the data that's being captured in your system. If you don't like pie, you can go ahead and change it to a bar graph there. But I like pie, so let's go ahead and leave that as pie. And you can see here that over the period that this report is done in, that our person that has entered the most time is Judy. And then, each of the different folks here, you can see that Judy entered 23% of all of the time that was entered, which, depending upon how you're trying to calculate your data and what type of data you're interested in, that could be helpful information as you move forward. You can also see that there are these other approvals that are pending here on the dashboard screen. If you want to go in and run your very own reports, you can go to the Run Report area here under Analyze. There are several default reports that are here, and there's ability in the bottom right-hand corner again to create different types of reports. There's matrix reports and time reports and so on and so forth here. There are a lot of different ways that you can slice and dice the data inside Journyx. And depending upon what type of data that you're looking at and how you want to visualize it, these different report types will help you do that. So right now, if I just go and do a time report, it allows us to choose a date range. We can either be prompted for the date when we run the report, or we can set it to run on an anchored date, like say if we want it to run for 10 days. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and prompt for date. So in filtered reports, or under report filters, we can filter by projects, users, status, entry columns. So I was interested in the time that Judy had entered. So let's go ahead and select Judy and add her into here. We're going to leave projects set to include all projects, so that'll allow me to see what all Judy is logging her time to. We can come over here to report output options and select the subtotals. So I wanted this to be subtotaled by 1 week. And I want if you're doing more than just one person, you can like set your subtotal by time record and subtotal by user if you choose to. In this case, since it's just one user, it's kind of unnecessary, but and then you can select the different specific data that you want to show. You can also choose chart options. Let's go ahead and do another pie chart here. And we'll want to set that to activity because there's just one user. So I'm going to save and run the report. And let's see. So let's just look at the month of January for Judy. So I'm going to run the report. And what we'll see here is that majority of Judy's time, 95% of her time, was spent on the activity of design and plan, and 5% of her time was doing sales. In our report down here below, we can see the specific data that's driving this chart. If we click the Expand All button here, we'll be able to see all of the specific time that was entered for her in this time frame. She entered 80 hours, so 95% of her time was spent on design and plan. All right, so that was just a very quick overview of reports. At this point, before I let you go, there's a couple other things I wanted to make sure to notify you of. We have a user community, as I believe Carrie noted earlier. It's at community.journyx.com. Here, there's all kinds of helpful articles that you can find on different issues that you may run into. It doesn't have everything, but we are constantly working on building out the information that's in the user community. So if you need to contact support for anything, you can either call us on the phone at 1-800-755-9878 and hit extension 2 for support, or you can always email us at support@journyx.com. So at this point, if there's any Q&A.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, so if you do have any questions, we do have a couple. then go ahead and put those into the questions box in your GoToWebinar panel. And we do have a bit of time here for questions. And any time that we don't use, we'll just go to a little bit of a break before we head into Brian's session at 11 o'clock Central. So first question, Matt, is can we upload PDF files to the mobile app?
Yes, you can upload PDFs through, like for expenses, you can definitely do that. You can do images. That was actually one of the things I forgot to show you. You can, inside the mobile app in your expenses area, you can take a picture of your receipt from your travel or whatever and upload that right into your sheet. PDFs work as well. You can also utilize other images or files that are already stored on your mobile device, or you can upload them from a web browser as well.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Matt. And you appear to have answered someone else's question in the process. Something actually that I noticed, and another person has noticed, that you were putting in mileage. The mobile app did not appear to convert mileage to the rate that was set up in the base system. Is that? I don't know if this is a question for you or Meredith, if you might be able to jump in because she's on. Is that being worked on, or is that even an issue? I'm not sure.
That is a good question. I noticed that as well. I would have to defer to Meredith on that. Meredith, do you have a suggestion on that? I wonder if Meredith isn't on right now.
Yeah, I don't think that she's available right now. However, I will forward that question to her. There was one other question that I saw that would be a really great question for her.
Mm-hmm.
And any of those questions having to do with maybe feature requests or bugs that you may have seen, I will throw to her to respond to you directly on. So I'll have her get in touch with you on that. Another question. Can you take a picture and create it as a PDF? I think that that's something that's more inside the application for whatever you're using to take the picture. But Matt, do you know if there's a good way to do that?
I don't. I'm sure that there are ways that you can do that. There's probably apps for that, but I'm not aware of any off the top of my head.
Okay, great. And last question, the mobile app appears to accept entry in hours, minutes, and not the, this might be pertaining to the last one, not pertaining, and not the decimal format set up in the base system. Is that what we were just talking about before, Matt?
I don't understand the question.
I think this has to do with the when you were entering in mileage and it entered it in as dollars, and this person was just noting the mobile app appears to accept entry in hours, minutes, and not the decimal. Oh, this is a different question. The mobile app appears to accept entry in hours, minutes, and not the decimal format set up in the base system.
I believe that you can do decimal or hours. I just chose to enter it as hour, minute, minute.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? And by the way, someone else has just noted that Fast Scanner turns phone pictures into turns the phone into a scanner, and then you can save your pictures as a PDF. So thank you very much.
Excellent.
Fast Scanner.